Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Guys, today we will be going over everything we've learned in Matthew and Mark over the Barabbas study. If y'all been paying attention to the channel, this last week we've been going over Matthew and Mark in the Bible, talking about the Barabbas and Jesus case. If y'all don't know who Barabbas is like the guy who was originally supposed to be hung on the cross, but Jesus took his place. So if y'all have ever heard of Josiah Queen, he has he's a famous singer. He has a song called I Am Barabbas, and it's saying like, I am Barabbas, you took upon my cross, I was a prisoner until you bought my bond with blood. And I've always wondered, who is Barabbas? Who in the heck is Barabbas? Why does Josiah name himself Barabbas? But this is why. This study has really taught us who Barabbas is, and taught us like how crazy humans are, not just today, but back then too. We look at the world, like a real learning point for me was, everyone looks at this world so evil. Everyone looks at this world like, oh, he votes for Trump, or oh, he votes for Biden or Hillary Clinton. He must be evil. I'm not siding. I'm not a politician. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I just go with whatever is more biblically accurate. But we're not discussing politics today. I'm just saying, like, people back here were saying Barabbas was a better choice than Jesus to release. And people nowadays are like Trump or Biden or Hillary Clinton or whoever the woman president or whoever the girl was running for president last year. I can't remember her name right now. Y'all could tell I don't pay attention to politics. But it's like people find each other so evil because they have different opinions. People had different opinions about the savior of the world back then. That's the crazy thing. And people in this time are like, Jesus is evil, Barabbas is the way to go. Barabbas is the way to let go, kill Jesus on the cross. And it's nothing different than today. This is a court case. This is basically politics right here. Of course, politics is taking over the nation as we speak. So when people say, this is daily encouragement really right now, when people say the world is worse right now than it always has been, it's a lie. The world could get so much worse. And if that's scary to you, open your eyes. The world is not that bad, guys. The world is actually pretty good for all things considered, especially where we live. We live in America. We have the free choice to decide who we like, to decide what we want to praise. And of course, I choose Jesus. Other people choose atheism, paganism. It doesn't matter. But my job, as for the reason that I do this, is because I have the freedom to do this, and I want other people to come to know Jesus the way I do. And if they choose not to, I mean, Jesus gave us the choice to choose. If they choose not to, that's on them, but I want to open the opportunity. Anyway, enough about politics. Let's get into the Bible. So, over the past week, we've been going over, like, the Jesus of Barabbas section. If you open your Bibles to Matthew chapter 27, there's a section in the Bible, or at least CSB, we're in CSB right now, that says Jesus or Barabbas. And during that entire section is the court case with Pilate being the judge, deciding, like, do you want to execute Jesus or Barabbas? I'm sorry if I'm looking away. I'm looking at my face right now, okay? That's the camera, that's my face. I'm sorry, but anyway, the Jesus of Barabbas section was really like focusing on the court case. That's what that section was for. But over the past 2 days, we went back and checked out Jesus Faces the Governor section, which is like literally Pilate and Jesus debating each other. Barabbas didn't even have a section with this. Like, before the Jesus Faces the Governor, it's Judas hangs himself. So in Jesus Faces the Governor, we're going to read it real quick. It says, now Jesus stood before the governor. Are you the king of the Jews? The governor asked him. Jesus answered, you say so. While he was being accused by the chief priests and elders, he didn't answer. Then Pilate said to him, you hear how much they are testifying against you, but he didn't answer him, even on one charge, so that the governor was quite amazed. See, all these people, the chief priest, the governor, all the people from the crowd are questioning Jesus right now. Like, if you're so-called God, then prove it. Literally, that's what they're trying to do. And Jesus just sitting there, he's like, nah, I'm good. He's like, he knows what's about to happen. He knows what's about to happen has to happen. And it's I can't imagine what, like, how he's feeling. He might be feeling, like, terrified in this moment because he knows he's about to be, like, this is about to be the most brutal murder ever in the history of all the entire world, and continues to be till this day, 2,000 years later. It's like he's just sitting there. He's not trying to get out of it. He's not trying to convince them to kill Barabbas instead. And for this, Pilate is very amazed at this. Pilate's like, wow, he's insane. I feel like is what Pilate's saying. But I also feel like Pilate thinks that Jesus is so confident he can get out of this without saying a word, which I think Pilate has the right faith to believe that, but he also should have tried to help Jesus a little bit more, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Y'all might think different, but even on one charge, he didn't answer even on one charge. That means he didn't even say a word. Like, the only question he answered is the governor asked him, are you the king of the Jews? And Jesus said, you say so. He was like giving them the answer they think, not even the answer he thinks. Jesus is just like the most chill, laid-back guy right now. In reality, he's probably terrified because literally he was so stressed about not wanting to, or about the cross, that he was just like, he was sweating blood. That's the most stressful situation to be in your entire life. That's a rare condition. If you like sweat blood, that's like an actual thing. Like, you could be so stressed you sweat blood, but it has to be a stress level that not many humans are even capable of being able to comprehend. And it's insane that Jesus, like, that's how like much he was stressing out about this. And now the Bible is showing him to be this chill, laid back guy, just sitting there, not answering any questions, not trying to get out of this at all, but instead not saying a word, helping Barabbas' case so much that Jesus is basically putting himself on the cross at this point. And it's incredible. I feel like that's why Pilate's so amazed, because Jesus is not trying to get off of it. And Mark has some different viewpoints on Pilate and different words to go over. We're going to get into that, but we're on Matthew, and that's just incredible to me. But yeah, the next session, it says Jesus or Barabbas, of course, and it's 15 through 25. I'm going to get into that too, but I do have to go do some things real quick. So I'm going to take a little break and get my mind together. And I'm going to go work on other things like releasing the new song, Biting My Tongue, has to come out today. So I got to go get that on YouTube and go do some other things. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to finish Matthew. And then we're going to move to Mark, get Mark done, and get through it. So yeah, love all you guys. And I'll see y'all guys in a couple of seconds. Later. Alright, I'm back. It's been like a week since I recorded that last part. Life has been so hectic, dude, but I'm glad to be back. In last part, I guess I don't need to tell you the last part. I'm so used to doing the Barabbas study, like, individually. I'm like, last part, we did this, and this. That was a second ago for y'all, so we're just gonna jump right into the Jesus of Barabbas part. Right now, I'm gonna go, like, verse by verse. We're just gonna, like, go over every single verse here, and, like, I'm just gonna read a singular verse. We're gonna dig deep into it. We're gonna go on to the next verse, dig deep into that one. So we're starting on Mark 27, verse 15 now, and we're gonna go until we hit 25. I think it is. We're gonna go until we hit 26. I'm sorry. Yeah. So starting out with 15, it says, at the festival, the governor's custom was to release a crowd of prisoners they wanted. So at the beginning, I don't think I really knew what the custom was. The custom is he takes two prisoners. Like, the custom was to release the good prisoner out into the crowd, and take the bad prisoner, put him on the cross, and kill him. Or there might be two bad prisoners, and Pilate would let the people choose which one they want to release and which one they want to kill. So that's the custom. He's taking Barabbas and Jesus. He's taking the crowd, all the people out here. Barabbas and Jesus are right here. Pilate's right here. Pilate's like, do you want to eliminate Barabbas or do you want to eliminate Jesus? Which one do you want to kill? And which one do you want to set free into the crowd? And of course, the people are like, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. But we'll get more into that later. So that's the custom, if y'all were wondering. Moving on to 16, it says, at that time, they had I cannot say this. Alright, I'm good now. So we're going to finish up Matthew, then we're going to head into Mark. So now we're going to start at 15, and we're going to go on. I'm going to go over every single verse, like, individually until we hit 26, and then we'll move on to Mark. But, yeah, I'm going to go over every verse starting now at 15, not 25. But it says, at the festival, the governor's custom was to release to the crowd a prisoner that they wanted. So, like we talked about in the short videos, Pilate had a custom where he took two prisoners, like Jesus and Barabbas, and was like, let the Jews choose which one they wanted to release. And they were like, Jesus the king, or Barabbas the enemy, the villain, the arch, like everything wrong. And of course they're like, kill Jesus, release Barabbas. And yeah, it was just like, it was his custom. Moving on to 16, is at that time they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. They had Barabbas on standby with Jesus. They had Barabbas ready for the trial because they knew they were going to capture Jesus. And then 17 says, so when they had gathered together, Pilate said to them, who is it you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? And he's saying, like, Jesus, he's basically saying here, it's kind of funny, he's basically saying here, the only thing Jesus has done that y'all want to crucify him for is him calling himself Christ. And Barabbas is the murderer, notorious prisoner. I can't remember how long they've had Barabbas locked up before they got Jesus. I don't really remember. But then moving on to 18, it says, for he knew it was because of envy that he had handed him over. This changes Pilate's perspective. Pilate knew that the chief priest had envy, had jealousy, had hatred toward Jesus because he was like so much more powerful, so much better, so much greater than the chief priest. So it was an envy that they handed him over, and Pilate knew this. So they're like, do you want to release Christ or do you want to release Barabbas, which is the murderer, a bunch of like problems with Barabbas. And of course he wasn't a serial killer. Let's get that straight now. Like, Barabbas didn't go on a kill spree and kill multiple people. He started a riot in a rebellion, and he killed at least one person. That's all I'm sorry. Alright, so then moving on to 19, it says this, while he was sitting on the judge's bench, his wife sent word to him, have nothing to do with that righteous man, for they have suffered terribly in a dream because of him. His wife literally had a dream that like made her suffer because, like, showing the power of Jesus. She is like had nothing to do with him. But I think he interpreted that wrong, or I think she interpreted that wrong, because she's like, had nothing to do with this man. This man is like, just don't try to save him, I feel like is what she's trying to say. I could be wrong on this. If I am, please comment incorrect. Like, the point of the study is not me necessarily teaching y'all, but it's kind of us learning together. Yeah, we're learning together here. And of course I'm reading everything, I'm talking about everything, but if y'all have questions, if y'all have argument points, put them in the comments, because I want to hear them. It's kind of interesting to read some of them too. But anyway, moving on. His wife sent word to him. Yeah, so the chief priest, reading verse 20, the chief priest and the elders, however, pursued the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to execute Jesus. So the chief priest is literally taking the Jews and twisting them around their fingers. The chief priests are literally convincing the crowds to ask for Barabbas to be released before the ceremony ever starts, and to execute Jesus. And then 21 ties right into that. It said the governor asked them, which of the two do you want me to release for you? Barabbas, they answered. And the chief priest literally like took time to convince them to want Barabbas instead of Jesus. And then next Pilate asked them, what should I do with Jesus, who is called Christ? They all answered, crucify him. The chief priest is literally like, they're so envious, they're so jealous of Jesus that they're becoming evil. It's insane here, because like, this just shows you jealousy, envy, all of this stuff can lead to a dark path, can lead to evil, can lead to the dark side. It's insane, like, what the crap, like how the chief priest convinced them like so easily almost, because like, I don't feel like it took a lot of time for them to convince. It might have, but I mean, let's take like a ceremony, let's take like a movie. let's say we're in a movie theater waiting for the movie to start. We just got in there, screen hasn't turned on. There's going to be some commercials before the movie starts. There's going to be that time lapse before the movie starts. I feel like the ceremony is the same way. I feel like the time lapse in between people getting there and the ceremony actually starting was the time that the chief priests were trying to like convince the people and everyone to like persuade them to try to vote Barabbas out and Jesus into the crucifixion. Moving on, next up we got 24, and 24 says, when Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that a riot was starting instead, he took some water, washed his hands in front of the crowd, and said, I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves. So Pilate he is so positive Jesus is innocent that he's literally washing his hands in front of the entire crowd. And of course, washing your hands isn't like back in the day like this. It wasn't with soap. It was just like pour water, scrub a dub, and there you go. With no soap back then, so it's so easy. It was so easy to wash your hands. He was just like, you know what? I'm gonna grab a pot of water. I'm gonna just dump some water. There you go, and I'm clean. This man's blood is not on my hands, and what is done is done. And it was getting so hectic that a riot was literally breaking out. Like, people were so, like, fighting, and it was crazy. Like insanity is just breaking out over the entire crowd. And it's crazy because it's so evil that riot is literally breaking out just to argue about this. And the chief priests are just probably sitting there going, ha ha ha, we're convincing evil to take place. And it's diabolical. It's insane. And it's evil. There's literally no other way to explain it. But going on to 25, it says, all the people answered, his blood be on us and on our children, cursing all of us, cursing every person. I did say every person but Pilate in the short form, but even his children, because they were like, on our children, and Pilate was fine with that. All the people answered, literally all the people in the crowd. The chief priest, I didn't even realize this before, but the chief priests are literally twisting the minds of their own people. It's crazy, it's sad, and it's insane. But moving on to 26, to wrap up Matthew, it says, then he released Barabbas to them, and after having Jesus flogged, handed him over to be crucified. Yeah, the chief priests, I think the main point of Matthew is the chief priests, were like so jealous, so envious that they confused all of their people to killing their king. And this, Jesus' crucifixion was, at this point, it was the chief priest's fault. Because the chief priest convinced everyone else to vote for for Barabbas to be released instead of Jesus. And the chief priest, that just shows you how evil jealousy and envy can get and can be. I mean, it's crazy. Honestly, it's wow. I mean, I just feel like that's the main point of Matthew. But we're going to move on to Mark. I'm going to flip there off camera. Alright, moving on to Mark. Mark is shorter than Matthew, of course. We remember this from the short videos, but this is going to be very repetitive to a lot of people probably, but there's different points from each chapter. Last point was the chief priests were twisted and diabolically turning the crowd against their own king because of jealousy and envy. And we're about to find out the point of Mark, and then we'll be going over John and Acts, Luke, John, and Acts in the next video. So in Mark, I'm gonna go ahead by starting us off with the first verse. There we go. Golly. So chapter 15, verse 6 through 15. So it says this. At the festival, Pilate used to release for the people a prisoner whom they requested. Nothing different than Matthew. His custom, and he's letting the people choose a person between Jesus or Barabbas. And of course, they chose Barabbas to be released. But moving on, verse 7, it says this. There was one named Barabbas who was in prison with rebels who had committed murder during the rebellion. So there was a rebellion. He was with the people during the rebellion and caused murders. Barabbas murdered people. He only murdered, as far as we know, one person. He was not a serial killer. He was just a murderer. He murdered a couple. He might have murdered 2 or 3, but we know he at least murdered 1. Moving on to 8. The crowd came up and began to ask Pilate, do for them as was his custom. They wanted his custom to be done. And of course, Pilate was like, okay, I can have that. We can do that. Which Pilate was thinking, this is a no-brainer. Jesus is getting out of this so easily. Which ties into the next verse. Pilate answered them, do you want me to release the king of the Jews for you? And all the people, moving on to verse 10, we're going to probably move through this chapter faster. For he knew it was because of envy that the chief priest handed him over. Right? Off of Matthew. The chief priest handed Jesus over in envy. And Pilate is over here like talking to the people, not the chief priest, but the Jews. Do you want me to release the king of the Jews for you? Because to the people, but again, as we learn in Matthew, the chief priest twisted the minds of the Jews and was like, the Jews are thinking, no, we don't want to release him. We want to release Barabbas, because that was what our chief priest told us. Yeah, moving on to 11, it says, but the chief priest stirred up the crowd so that he would release Barabbas to them instead. Going off of 11, they're evil at this point. Moving on to 12, it says, Pilate asked him again, then what do you want me to do with the one you call the king of the Jews? Moving on to 13, right off of that. Well, he's like, what do you want me to do with the king of the Jews? What do you want me to do with y'all's king, since I'm already since I'm already releasing Barabbas? And they're like, moving on to 13, again they shouted, crucify him. The stir up that the chief priest caused everyone to want to kill Barabbas and release Jesus. But moving on to 14, it says, again, Pilate said to them, why? What has he done wrong? But they all shouted all the more, crucify him. They don't even have a reason. They don't have a reason whatsoever. They're just sitting there yelling, crucify him. Moving on to the next verse, the final verse. Wanting to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them, and after having Jesus flogged, he handed him over to be crucified. Pilate here is allowing them to crucify Jesus, even though he could have saved him. Wanting to please the crowd is literally what Mark said. Love it. Pilate's like, what has he done wrong? But they all shouted all the more, crucify him. Like, these chief priests had them like so tied up. But that was the point of Mark. The point of that was the point of Matthew. The point of Mark that we should take away is like, sure, Pilate could have done more, but he didn't. He wanted to please the crowd. That shows us that he could have done more, but he wanted to please the crowd, so he didn't. And that's a sad reality. But that's Mark. That's the main point of Mark. He wanted to satisfy the crowd rather than his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And it's hard to admit that. It really is. But that is the end of Matthew and Mark. I'm going to go outside and we're going to wrap up the video. We're talking a little bit more about this, talking about other things. So, yeah, I'm going to head outside real quick, guys. What's up, guys? It's been a couple more days since I recorded that last part, but we're back. The sun glare is terrible, so forgive me for that, but there's Luna. Yeah, guys, the Barabbas study, I'm just wanting to say the Barabbas study has been such a big blessing in my life. It has helped me learn so much about Barabbas, so much about what we put Jesus through. Not only him, not only Pilate, but what we did. And it's very sad truth. It's a very big information glob about what we learned the past couple of weeks, or past month or two, maybe even. I can't really remember when we started. Sorry, if I look over there, I'm watching Luna, because she's all the way over there. But she's having fun. That's why I'm out here. I like to be out in the wild, and she needs to run free, and I can't let her run free by herself because she's young, and I don't want her running off and never coming back. So I gotta be out here to supervise. But yeah, guys, this Barabbas study has been so perfect, so beautiful. Because it's so amazing to just like sit down and see what we did to Jesus and just like what he did for us. And it's so unbelievable, unimaginable, unfathomable. And, yeah, it's like so much to go over, so much to comprehend. We have another episode coming soon. It's going to be part 2. This is long form part 1, Barabbas study. Part 2 will be coming in like a week or 2, hopefully. It might be a month. I don't really know yet. It'll be coming out sometime in 2026. I don't know yet. I'm going to try to have like a specific date posted on Instagram stuff, my Instagram and my Snapchat and my TikTok and stuff. But yeah, guys, I hope y'all all enjoyed the Barabbas study. We've learned a lot from Pilate's, Luna, come on back. Sorry, she's running off. Austin, edit that out for me. We've learned a lot from, like, not Abraham, edit that out too. I don't know what I'm saying. We've learned a lot from Pilate's, like, debate whether they should release Barabbas or Jesus, all the way to future, like, what they did during the crucifixion. And we've learned, like, I don't have to cut. Hold on. We've learned a lot from, like, Pilate's his debate between whether they should release Barabbas or Jesus. We've learned a lot from whether, like, what took place then, how Jesus didn't say anything. He was just like, he was ready to die on the cross for us, and that's just so powerful, guys. We've learned a lot over the past couple of weeks. I encourage y'all to read the Barabbas parts of the Bible on your own time and study it on your own time, not just to what I say, but pay attention and, like, read and learn by yourself as well. I encourage that. But keep coming back for the Bible studies. Just because the Barabbas study is over does not mean that my walk of faith is over. Does not mean the Bible studies on this channel are over. We're going to be starting another one soon. I love all you guys. Love Jesus. Love like Jesus. I'm going to give y'all a little side shot of Luna. She's right there. She's trying to drink water out of the basketball goal. I don't know why. But, yeah. I love all you guys. If y'all need anything, I'm going to be putting my personal socials out there soon, so y'all could just, like, interact with me more. Text me if y'all need me. DM me if y'all have questions about the Bible. I will find them out for you. And we'll learn together, and we're walking this together. I love all you guys. I'll see y'all guys in the next one. Ingrid's Kid out. Later, guys. Goodbye.